Right. Thank you for asking. This is
Hello,
fun.
BookTube. Well, as you can see, I have a guest. This is William Gallagher, who is an award-winning writer, an indefatigable teacher of writers, and also the creator of the YouTube channel 58 Keys. Hello, welcome.
Hello. Just trying to pass. Is indefatigable entirely good? I think it is. It's got so many syllables. It's got to be good, isn't it? Yes. Thank you for that
No
one.
need to check the fine print. And I have a million questions that I want to ask you about writing and the tech of writing and what you do on 58 Keys. But first, there's an experience I want you to tell us a little about because you have actually had an experience that lurks in the nightmares of every bookish person. And you're here to talk about it. Every bookish person is fairly certain that at some point in their life, their books are going to try to kill them,
Um,
either by squashing them like a bug or by pinning them so they have to eat their own
yes.
tongue to survive. And that actually happened to you. It's
Yes.
just it's just freak timing that you're here right now instead of still eating your own innards underneath a pile of books.
Yeah, I'd put it behind me. Thanks for bringing it back. But yes,
In
yes,
fact, if I remember right, isn't it literally behind you? The wall
yes,
behind you is
actually.
where the offending bookcase was.
You can see some boxes now. Those boxes contain the books that were in the shelf that I'm still trying to reapportion and assign. But yes, it was one set of shelves and it went wallop that way up against the door that's behind me, um, which was horrible. Massive crash in the middle of the night. Knew what it was. Something in the back of my head. Knew something was wrong with that shelf, but didn't get around to it and then destroyed. But because it fell side, I'm glad it fell sideways because it would have hit the Mac behind me and things would have gone forward. But it hit the door, so it blocked the door, and all my gear was in here. I was supposed to be going out to interview somebody. Nothing. I couldn't get to anything. So I spent. It was from 9 o'clock in the morning till about noon, so 3 hours, managing to push the door just open enough to get a finger in and cup it under a book and work the book up and drop it and then back again and then get it to the top and be able to kind of just shove it so that it landed further in the room. Weirdly, I actually have a security camera in here, so I've never thought was of any use at all, but it could actually, I've recorded it. See these books fly on my little finger and slowly got in and saw the horrendous damage. And then I told people about it, and friends said to me, friends who are authors, "Is my book okay?" And things like that.
So they didn't kill you, but they did make you crawl. They did make you beg
Yes,
to get back in your own workroom.
I actually cut my hands because it was one finger for one, then you could get the hand in for it. So as you could steadily do bits, but yes, it was kind of blooded along there by the end. The
Well,
only
there you go,
reason I kept
everybody.
doing it was I couldn't think of anything else to do. So sitting there in my pajamas for 3 hours with blood on my hands.
All right, so
Sounds
we
far
know it
more
can be
dramatic.
survived. That experience can be survived. If the timing is right, it can be survived.
Yes. Totally scarred for life. Lots of therapy, and now all, wasted because of you. But you know, you can talk. I love your shelves. I've been looking at your videos, trying to read the book. If those ever fall in on you,
Yes,
well,
but I had the rare opportunity in this room that most readers don't ever have. I came to this room with my collection fully formed and the room completely empty.
oh
So
wow.
I was able to, all the bookshelves you see behind me were custom made by one guy. They're all tall and thin, and when I put them against that wall, I cantilevered them against themselves. Literally, the whole
Oh,
of that physical wall, not the bookcases, but the wall itself would have to cave in for them to come down.
right.
If you took the walk, if you hopped over to one of those shelves and pulled on it, it would not come down because it's braced by all the others. Because I was worried about the
Oh,
same thing.
challenge accepted.
The
I
key
bet
is
there's got
the
to be
custom made
one
part,
weak
and that's
spot.
pricey.
There's probably one just perfectly balanced point where there's a book that if you pull out the book, it all collapses.
Yes, and it's Proust, as
Yeah.
always. But we're going to try to push forward with a friendly conversation, even though you and I are natural enemies. You are a writer and I am a critic. We're going to try and get
Oh,
over.
I've been a critic. I was a critic on Radio Times and BBC News Online. I think it's a fascinating thing. I need to create as well as criticize, but I think they both help me. I felt that my criticism was more informed because I mean, in a very small way, had an idea what went into making something, and I know making something. When I got my first, used to do Doctor Who radio dramas, and when I got the first one on, it felt like a validation of everything I thought as a critic, everything I liked in drama. I was going to say I did it. Big Finish, managed to make it sound great. So I felt kind of justified in a weird way for it. But why aren't you writing? What's the matter with you? Come on, write.
The number one exhortation of your channel. I do write, but usually I confine it to NaNoWriMo. Uh, most of the time, I'm happy just to, well, bloodlet. I'm mostly happy just to fill a nice tankard with the blood of some well-meaning author and quaff. But your
Right.
question of well, actually, that sparks two questions. One is just about Big Finish. You have an experience that most writers don't have.
Hmm.
Most writers, they write a work, they sweat over it, they send it out into the market, and then the reactions to it outside their own circle are fairly muted to
Yes.
them. 99% of the people who ever encounter it are never going to tell the author what they thought of it or do anything with it. Here you write this, and I imagine you had an editor or a
Yes.
director,
On Doctor
and then
Who.
actors who might
Yeah.
give lines of dialogue completely different intonations than you intended. What is
Yes. All of the above. Grief. Um, I mean, you see me smiling. I've had a bad director on a theatre project, and I'm kind of glad in a way because it makes me appreciate good directors more. And Big Finish, there's a guy called Ken Bentley who directed a lot of mine. I think he's tremendous. Alan Barnes was a script editor, and he is such a good writer, and he knows Doctor Who. I mean, I thought I knew Doctor Who, but forget it. Child's play next to him. It just lives and breathes it. Extremely talented man, deeply admire him. And then there's an actor called John Dorney, who's also a writer. And I met him on the recording of my very first Doctor Who, Peter Davison story. And I had this particular character, a villain, and John had decided to play him with a Cockney accent. I don't think the script specified an accent, but I didn't hear Cockney in my head. I can't tell you anymore what I did hear because after a morning of hearing him doing this, I thought he's right, actually.
really?
That
Oh,
character
wow.
should be. And how he made that leap, I mean, it wasn't even set on Earth. It was on a planet called Folly. It was a prison with all sorts of things going on, monsters, yeah, usual Doctor Who stuff. And he decided, no, Cockney is the way to go. And yeah, so I learned a lot, actually. You need to trust your actors. When you have great actors, it's fantastic. And my experience is very limited, but in that limited experience, I've had some wonderful people reading the words I wrote in this room. I write it here, it comes out there. It's thrilling. Yes.
I have there's a cliche question, but still, it's still valid. The cliche questions can still be valid. I'm not going to ask you where you get your ideas from, but I do want to know, no names, mind you, but do you learn anything from a bad director? I'm thinking that the worst possible way you could learn from a bad director is if one of their criticisms is actually right.
Oh no, I wouldn't call that bad at all.
Oh,
It
okay.
can conceivably be annoying. But no, right. I'm obviously going to tell you the story of the bad director, aren't I? There's no way to stop it. You can see you brought another thing you brought back. This is a long time ago.
Yes, yes. This is a William Gallagher trauma session.
Right, this is a 50-minute hour, isn't it? So I'm paying you in some way.
In case you
Okay.
all are wondering, he was already looking for the cancel button before we even started recording. That's just the way of it with conversations with me.
I'm not going to regret this later because I'm regretting it now, really. But bad director. My mind's in two fashions here because I thought mine was very, very specific. What was actually at the root of what was bad with this director was his ultimate dramatic aim was to make sure the theatre play finished in time for him to catch the last bus, which is not really a dramatic impetus. But also, recently I revisited this. There's a BBC series called The Alan Pascoe from the 1990s, based on Reginald Hill's series of novels, which actually I'm rereading at the moment. And a friend of mine, Alan Plater, the late Alan Plater, wrote a lot of them. And the last one he did, the one after which he said he would not work for them again, the reason was, at least in part, because of the direction. So the other day, I remember seeing it, thinking it was rubbish, and I was a bit shocked, and I hadn't wanted to say that to Alan because I liked the book. I like Alan's writing, and I watched it again just to see all these years later, did it seem okay? And no, it was unwatchable
Wow.
because of the direction.
Mm.
I made it because I wanted to see how long a bad scene was. I think I made it 7 minutes into the episode, so probably an hour and a half episode. There's a murder in a bedroom, okay, and the director had it. It was at night. We see outside and it's bright moonlight, but inside the bedroom, even with curtains open, it's literally black except for one, bedroom light, a ceiling light, and somehow, who knows why, the murderer who has shot somebody on the bed has also managed to knock the ceiling light so that it swings back and forth. And you get this sudden burst of light on the murderer's face, and then on the victim's body, and then on the policeman's face, and back and back and back. It was 70 seconds of this thing back and forth, never, getting less, always slightly out of time. So the editing was rubbish as well. And you look at that and you thought, this is a director who is fresh out of art school and wants to be noticed and wants to look really, really good. And around the same time, I remember thinking it was a different director, fortunately. The Inspector Morse was on at the time, and you'd start an episode and there'd be the murderer reflected in the wing mirror of Morse's car. And you think, oh, it's that director again, isn't it? And it always was. You shouldn't be thrown out of a story by a director's choice
No.
or a writer's choice or anybody's choice. Really, it's so hard to get somebody into a story. If you then throw them out by being, I am so clever, look at me. Yeah, I'm gone. So that's what I would call a real bad director. My one was just problematic, shall we say.
Now,
Mm.
did you start off? What is your writing origin story? When did you know that you were not fit for normal occupations, for nice societally useful occupations? When did you know it wasn't going to be, steelworking or something like that? Was it early on? Did you break in with criticism?
No, and so I'm trying to find a way to cut a long story, not to cut it short, but at least make it interesting. No one in my family has done anything like this ever. Not in the arts in any way, not in any journalism, nothing. I don't want to knock what everybody did, but nothing in the creative industries, shall we say. And it's more than just not knowing anybody doing it. For the very longest time as I was growing up, I assumed other people did this, that I would never be allowed to. And even saying that, it's more conscious. It was more deeply rooted, like the certainty that I can't fly, for example. But then something happened. There was a TV show called Lou Grant, MTN Productions, 1977 to about 1981. Could be 82, I'm not sure now. And it was the first thing I recognized was not just something on in the TV in the corner to fill up the time. That I recognized that there had been work there, there'd been craft. People had worked hard to create something special, and that got me slowly interested in all this. I know I became a journalist, and Lou Grant is a show about journalism, but there's not really a connection. It's the writing for it, and unfortunately, this happened around the time that my school started giving us careers lessons. So even that's wrong. It was careers lesson, singular, one careers lesson for 30 people in the class. And I remember this so vividly walking in that day. I was really keen. I sat in the front row. In came the teacher. He had this big red box with a card index in it. I mean, you don't, you're too young to remember card indexes, but one card with every job on it and underneath it, every qualification you needed to get to do that job. And it was right. Open the box. Mr. Gallagher, what do you want to be? And I know this is the first time I said it publicly. I think it might have been the first time I even said it to myself, but I actually said, "Sir, I want to be a writer." He laughed at me and got the whole class to laugh. And then it was, no, no, really, seriously, what do you want to do? I picked the next thing I could think of, computers, and it does tickle me that later found out the advice he gave me for computers was wrong as well. So it's just disastrous school, terrible school. I was a rubbish student. We kind of deserved each other, but I went off into computers and it was fine, I suppose. But it wasn't where I was supposed to be, and it took me 10 years to get over into this. And the first way through was through technology writing. I did a tiny bit of research for a BBC show called Micro Live, which was very exciting. I got to go into Television Centre in London for the first time. I mean, later I worked there a lot and I loved that place, but it was very, very exciting that first time. And then I actually, for some reason, and truly who knows why, I applied for a job as features editor on a computer magazine. And I was disastrously dreadful at it for about 3 months. Because at the same time, I was trying to get into the BBC as a radio producer. That's where all my real effort was going. And I blew that completely. That just was not going to happen. And I'm sitting there thinking, I have to commission people. I have to be a better writer. So it was like heads down, work on the magazine. And I think after about another 6, 8 months, I actually got quite good at it. They started giving me more and more of the magazine to control. So I can't remember what I started with, but by the end, I was doing so 50 or 60 pages of the monthly magazine were
And
down
that was
to me.
work that did it,
Yeah.
right? That was just you decided I need to get better at this.
Yes. It was a bit panicky, actually. I'd moved to London to do it. It was a very well paid job at the time, a lot of pressure on it. It was back in a time when computer magazines were very big in every sense. So it's like 120 staff. Um, Everybody seemed to know more than me, but at least I could concentrate on my bit and do my bit. And I got to like it. And I know, I think now that that was possibly the most useful thing I did as a writer because I was hiring other writers and I was discovering how, as a species, we can be dreadful. I mean, I've been let down by people at the very last second. Horrible stories from writers who didn't do what they said or did it badly. I, it was, I learned that if you deliver what you've said on time, you keep being hired. I actually ended up, there were times when I would hire somebody who I didn't think was great, but I knew would do it, as opposed to somebody who was great, who I had good reason to think
I don't think there's
wouldn't.
an editor in the world who hasn't made that choice. And I
No.
wish more people knew it. I really do. I wish more people knew it. I think we'd have a lot
Yes.
fewer freelancers who are on raving ego trips if they knew that.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my, though. If you and I start talking about the iniquities of freelancers, we will be here all day. Oh my. Oh my. To put it mildly, you are singing the song of my people. But the thing that I want to stress there is something that I think it would be a tenet of creativity that you and I would both emphatically insist to any viewers, which is that that is the key, not just for you, but for anybody. You just have to work at it. It's not going to happen in any other
Yes.
way. It's not like
No,
something's ever going to come down from above.
no, certainly not. I mean, I do believe that you get the whole 10,000 hours thing. If you do 10,000 hours in anything, you'll be good at it. Am I allowed to say bollocks on your channel?
You
I
certainly
think I
are.
just did. Sorry.
I meant
Okay.
to interject
Um,
earlier that my viewers are not expecting anything interesting on this channel. So bollocks is certainly that would take the viewership, if anything.
I've known people who've worked for years at writing, and well, I don't think they have really. They've kind of talked about it and played. They haven't really gone for it, but still, you kind of know immediately when you're reading something if somebody's going to get it for it. And then after that, yes, there's work. Um, I wrote 800,000 words last year, and I know that I got better as I went along. But I mean, I got tired, obviously. But everything you write, I think it improves. So I did this thing. I was looking up something just this morning. I was looking for new writing books to recommend for a project I'm doing, and I found a website that recommended 6 brand new writing books. And I thought two of them were okay. I've forgotten them completely, but four of them were about how to use AI to write your books for you. And I'm thinking, if you can't be bothered to write it, why
Mm.
should I be bothered to read it? And it's just the worthlessness of it. AI is a great tool for certain things, but there are so many people who want to have written rather than who want to write,
Yeah.
I think. And
Yeah.
those books and those sort of courses appeal to them. And I think they're going to have a life of frustration, really. But I mean,
Or
so do I, but
they
I
could have
enjoy the
staggering
frustration of writing.
success.
So yeah.
They could have staggering success as well. I think that's why
Yes,
your hair and my hair looks the way it does, because sometimes they have staggering success.
I combed my hair, everything. Yeah.
I don't want to get all artsy segue here, but I am dealing with a writer, so it's partially allowable. But that original wedding of uh, writing and computing from that big red box
Hmm.
all those years ago is true now for you in a large part.
Yeah.
You do a lot of
Yeah.
writing
Quite.
around the focus of 58 Keys is not just writing, but writing in a particular ecosystem.
Yeah. Yes. It's or the repeated statement is it's for writers who usually write on Macs and iPhones and iPads. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
the
I
real
never
reason
thought
for
of
that.
that. I thought that was specialized, but it's not. This stuff is absolutely all pervasive.
Right. Yeah, I hope so. It's weird because I remember when it wasn't. When Apple was really, I mean, Apple was 90 days from going bankrupt and all this sort of stuff. And you can't imagine that now, but I've kind of been with it there. I think my issue is having studied computers. I remember when I worked on Radio Times on the website, if the website went wrong, I knew how to describe it. I couldn't have fixed it, but I could tell the support people what was wrong, and then they would fix it. So I found it useful in a practical production sense. I'm lucky that I went through a very bad patch as a freelancer. It was just desperately hard about 2015, 16, and 17. And then Apple Insider came along and offered me some work, and I got to write for them. And that's been, as a freelancer, one steady contract is gold for it.
Yes.
My interest in technology is how we use it to do things. So I love that I get to write feature articles. I love that I get to interview people. I do a lot of news stories as well because I have a BBC News background and things, but my heart is not so much in processor speeds and I still can't understand battery capacities. And people keep trying to tell me, and it's just all numbers. It's nonsense to me. But using something to make something, yeah,
Right.
I genuinely believe technology is mandatory for me. And if I had been on a PC, I would not be doing all the things I'm doing now because so much of it would be keeping the PC running and doing things. Whereas a Mac, just try it and it works
Yeah.
kind of thing. PC users completely disagree with me. And
Yes, they
why
will.
wouldn't they?
Well, I
But
don't
yeah.
know. Would they disagree with you? They would say that keeping the PC running is the fun, that it's the point. I don't think they deny that you have to do it. They just love it. They love doing that. They love nursemating these things and arguing with them and negotiating with them. Why not?
You
Whereas,
put something back in my head again. So back on PC Direct, we had this thing. I had to write a feature with another editor called Deborah Mundell. I think we both had to build a PC. Two different manufacturers build a PC and do it. And it always sounds so impressive. Built my own PC. It's not. You got a motherboard from this company, a plug from that one. But back in this is so early on in PCs that they had a thing called a turbo button. You press a turbo button and it would go faster. And I'm making my PC and I'm doing my little notes about this. And well, this is nice. And I'm using this screwdriver. And I found out the line from the turbo button. There was one electrical cable that went to the light that said the turbo button was on and didn't do anything else, wasn't connected to anything at all. And I thought, why am I using a PC?
but so, well, the focus of your channel then is on Mac writing, writing on a Mac
Yeah.
product. And
Yes.
your detractors, the anti-Gallagherite sect on YouTube, I'm sure there's great numbers of them, would say that in your videos, when you're giving writers new widgets to explore or little features to explore or try this or try that, you're actually giving them ways to avoid writing.
Yes, that's true.
So I'm not going to turn this into the tabloid style video of William Gallagher. Are you the devil? Instead, I want to concentrate on the good side of that ideology, which is that this technology, the goal of 58 Keys is to get people to write, ultimately, right?
Well, I thought it was. Now you're making me wonder.
You didn't know it was to corrupt souls. You end every video with write more.
Yes, I do. And I used to mean it. And now,
Just another day's business. Log online, crush a writer, log offline. No, I only meant that those. I was waiting for that particular gesture. I get this gesture in every review. I wasn't meaning to imply that the anti-Gallagherites are numerous. There's probably only a handful of them. How many could there be? But what?
I actually, no, last year, year before, I had somebody complain. They put a comment on 58 Keys, and I wish I'd kept it because it was basically like, you're like some kind of Shakespeare character. No, not character. You're like William Shakespeare, it said. And they'd written it in such a way that it was obviously an insult. And I went away thinking, you know,
I don't know how to take that.
no.
I don't know how to
No.
take that. Is it the accent?
I did have somebody once on Apple Insiders podcast. I listened to that saying I should, what was the phrase? Drop the fake English charm or something. I can't account for the charm part, but English I have little choice in.
So to finish up here, we've just got a few minutes left. You'll be relieved to know, but I want to know from a 30,000 point, because on your channel in your videos you are often concerned with one or two. Here's a feature that
Mm.
either hasn't been updated and should, or that has been updated and might work really well to help you as a writer, to
Yes.
prioritize what you're doing, to get straight at what you're doing. On your channel, you're often focused on those kinds of details. So I wonder, to finish up, could we do a 30,000 foot look at what is your general assessment of how the Apple ecosystem works for a writer? Is it the best? I mean,
Wow.
there are
Okay.
lots and lots of tools here. But if you, let's say, I mean, it won't happen, but let's say theoretically we had, an exchange student from Alpha Centauri who wanted to do a lot of writing and was totally alien to any company or
Mhm.
operating system or anything like that. Of all the ones that are out there, would it be Apple? I mean,
Well, you did say we have a few days left, didn't you? Um, actually, I think for all that I love Apple stuff, I think whatever works for you works for you. I mean, I know people who write on paper.
yeah.
So actually, I have a friend who writes first draft on paper, then types it up on a manual typewriter, and then types it up on a Mac. And I know he improves it along the way. So I was gonna say admire that, admire or envy. It's one of those, but who's got the time for it? Well, obviously he has, and I haven't. I think, yeah, I used to find Windows inadequate because there was always one more thing I had to buy, one more thing I had to figure out how to do in order to do something. Whereas with the Mac, um, they kill you on the money at the start, but after that, you're you're set, really. I mean, I don't replace my Macs very often. I have a relative who thinks I'm a computer nut, and I point out that since I bought my last Mac, I think he's bought might even be as many as 6 PC laptops and things like that. And I think, really, which of us is spending more money on computers? I don't know. I want to be able to shut out everything and concentrate on the thing I'm concentrating on. So Macs have things like focus modes and stuff that help with all of this. I also just find, I mean, I have to be aware that I've been using Macs for a very long time. And whenever you're really familiar with something, it seems easier. I don't think Macs are as easy as they used to be, but I still think the intent is there. I'll give you an example. I know an example, good and bad example. Um, it seems to me that Microsoft Word on PCs or Macs is a bit full of itself. It's all of these controls, all of these buttons, learn this, do that, and look up this. Pages Apple's equivalent is just kind of, yeah, you get on with it. It's fine. We're here if you want us. Um, Pages is an amazing word processor, actually, so much in it, but it's not in your face. And I like that approach that your work is more important than their controls. But I do see also lots of writer friends assume pages can't do certain things because it isn't in their face. So there's got to be a line somewhere, and maybe Microsoft and Apple, neither of them are quite right at it. But I like Apple's concern. Well, everybody's after money. They only want to sell things, but the philosophy of these companies
Get the
is
impression that some of their engineers are caring. That
yes.
aspect is
I
unavoidable.
mean,
It's
I
unavoidable.
was in a briefing with some Apple people recently, and I was actually quite excited talking to them about it. I mean, it was a topic I wasn't interested in, but they were so interesting about it and things. So you could see it really mattered to them, and that I liked. Whereas the only person I've interviewed from Microsoft was the most arrogant man in the history of the world, and I think he fought hard to get there, kind of thing. So there's something about that. But ultimately, whatever gets you to the finishing line, whatever gets you to write the thing you're writing, that's a good thing. I wouldn't do a PC channel because I don't know enough. It's years since I've used one constantly, but I know enough about these, and I love so much about the Mac stuff that helps me. And there are certain tools that are only on the Mac, like the Omni Groups tools, things that I depend on in my business. And I'm sure PCs depend on things, but I have all of this set and I love it all and I want to talk about it and I want you to have a good time with it as well.
I
That'd
will
be
leave a link to the channel. You should all go and subscribe. I think it's hilarious that
that'd be good.
the one greatest moment of Simpatico was when the two freelancers were so visibly aghast that anyone would want three drafts of something. How about one half of one draft? As I'm on my way out the door, you want me to rewrite this three times? It's only a writer in a capital W who would think to do such a thing. Imagine it, rewriting something three times. Oh my God, I can't imagine. But then